Welcome to A Perfect Place to Start. I'm Catherine, and on this channel I do home decor and DIY projects. For today's video I have a fun thrift flip video that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be creating the DIYs in the French country style. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I hope you stick around, like, and subscribe. So for our first project today, we're going to be creating this Paris framed art, and my thrift flip item is this picture frame. I picked it up for $2. It is like barnwood, and I'm just going to take some Waverly white chalk paint and I'm going to give it one coat. So I'm not going to give it full coverage. The really nice thing about this kind of wood is you can paint one coat on there and you get the nice distress look without having to actually distress anything. So I picked up these stencils from Amazon. They came in a grouping, and I'll show the grouping here in a little bit later, but I'm just taking some fabric that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just using some black Waverly chalk paint and my little chippy brush from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to stencil that onto the fabric. And then I'm going to take my staple gun and I'm going to staple the fabric to the back of my frame. This is super easy and I don't have to have a backing to it. Once I get that stapled to the back of my frame, then I'm going to take some fabric that I had on hand and I'm going to cut them into strips. So you can cut them however you want. I tried to make these kind of longer. They're about 1 to 1.5 inch strips, and then I'm going to create a bow with these. So I'm going to measure them out with my hand. I do about my fingers width apart, and then I add about 2 inches to that, and then I do the same thing on the other side, and I'm going to fold this ribbon or fabric over, and I'm able to get about 3 pieces or 3 loops to each one of these pieces of fabric. Then I'm going to go ahead and take another piece of the fabric and I'm going to start at the other end, and I'm just going to continue to do that for all of the pieces of fabric that I have cut here. Now you can go back and cut off the loops if you want to. I didn't, but you definitely could do that if you want it to be more of like a frayed look. So once I get all my pieces folded, I'm going to take that one piece that I had laying down on the bottom and I'm going to tie that into the center. That's what is going to keep our bow tightly fit there. And then once I just tie that into a knot, I had a few of the strands that I made into like a strand of a bow. I'm just going to attach that to the back and I'm going to tie it on to the other bow part that I made. Simple. It'll come attached if you want to detach it and use this bow for something else. But these are super fun. You can tie them to chairs, you can tie them just to like a blanket ladder or something like that. Like I said, you can cut the bow pieces apart and that gives you definitely a more like shabby frilly look, and you can definitely use other types of fabric as well. I'm just going to attach this up at the top of the corner of my frame using some hot glue, and then once I get that attached, I will show you this project styled in some decor.
Wanna do it all with you by my side. If you're in, meet me here tonight. Be brave and come along, I'll be your ride. Promise we don't need no brake lights. We can travel the world, so just say yes.
For this project, we're going to flip a recipe book holder. This one is metal and it was a steal of a deal and probably the best thing of the day, but it only cost me $1. I am using my paint tent here that I got at Lowe's. I will link down in my description box when you can get from Amazon, but this thing was pretty amazing. It controlled all of my spray paint and it didn't get anything on my project like from the wind blowing in or anything like that. So I highly recommend one of these. Even if you're spray painting inside, it works as well, like in a garage or something. All I'm going to do is give this metal piece like several coats of this blue Rust-Oleum spray paint, and here it is styled in some decor. For this project, I'm going to be making a farmhouse birdhouse, and I picked this up at the Goodwill for $2. It's a wooden birdhouse. Somebody had this outside, but it had this like twine stuff wrapped around it. So I got these like needle nose pliers, and I'm just going to take out all the staples that were keeping this twine wrapped around it. It kind of went around the top, and then it looped down on the bottom as well. There were quite a few staples into this little tiny piece of wood, but I did finally get them all out, and then I just took off this twine part and I threw that part away. It was pretty old, and you can tell that this piece has been out in the outside. Then I'm going to give it about 2 coats of my Waverly White chalk paint, and I just go ahead and paint over the entire thing, even the painted part on the top there. Then I'm going to take some floral foam and I'm going to put it into the inside of this little planter box, and then I'm going to use some lavender that I had on hand. I usually get my lavender from Walmart or the Dollar Tree. I'm pretty sure this one came from the Dollar Tree, but I'm just going to put several sprigs in there, just enough to cover up the greenery of the floral foam. Once I get all of my greenery into the planter box, then I decided to go ahead and add a shabby bow at the top, and this just was some leftover fabric that I got at a garage sale. It had a few little birds on it, and so I thought it would be really cute for this birdhouse. Then, to give it a last little touch here, I picked up these birds at Hobby Lobby over in the wedding section, and I'm just going to add one of the birds here into the top of the little perch part, and then I added another little piece of fabric to the middle of this bow, and I just tied this as a shoelace bow, and here it is, styled in some decor.
Catch a glimpse of Panama. We don't need a map. I'll let you know when we've arrived, yeah. We can travel the world, so just say yes. Choose to do whatever comes next. This or that, getting drunk on whiskey on a Tuesday night.
Hi friends! Are you enjoying today's video? I hope so. I had a lot of fun making these, and if you're enjoying it as much as I did, I hope you'll go down and hit the like button so my video can be seen by other people. So for this project, I'm going to be creating a shelf that I'm using with some IOD transfers. I picked up the shelf for about $2, and then I picked up these IOD transfers in a transfer book. All I did was turn my shelf, or I didn't turn it, but I just used the back of my shelf to trace on the back of my IOD transfer, and then I made sure that it lined up and I cut it out. Then I'm just going to adhere it to the front of my shelf. These transfers are so amazing. I love how they look. If you want to check out the transfers or any of the other IOD products, I will list the link to the store that I used for Ruth and Ruby, and I will list that down in my description box. But I'm just using my scraper that came from Hobby Lobby. You can also pick up one at the Dollar Tree, and here it is, styled in some decor.
This or that. This or that. Evenings on the train or catch a morning flight. Enjoying dinner until midnight. Or in bed by night. This or we can travel the world, so just say.
So for this project, we're going to create a French goose, and this is probably my most favorite project of this video. But I picked up this wooden goose for $1, and I'm using some stencils again, and these are from the same pack of stencils that I had used earlier. They came with about 4 or 5 stencil sheets, and they also came with a ring, and you can put them on the ring and keep them all together. So I thought these were really awesome. I did pick them up at Amazon, and I will link those down in my description box. But all I'm going to do is I used a couple coats of my Rust-Oleum white spray paint, and then I'm going to use just my black Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to go ahead and stencil all over just the front of my goose. Once I get that finished, then I'm going to take some fabric that I had in my stash, and I'm using buffalo check and polka dots. These are still black and white to go along with the goose and the stencil, and then I'm just going to tie that into a knot here on the neck of the goose. Once I get that tied onto the neck, then I'm just going to take some more buffalo check fabric and make a little bow, tied the middle of my bow off with some twine, and I'm just going to glue it here into the middle of what I'd already put on the goose's neck. To finish off my bow here, I decided to add a jewel from totallydazzled.com, and I'll list that link down in my description box, but I think it adds such cuteness here into the middle of our goose, and then here it is, styled in some decor.
or drinking red wine by an open.
For this project, we're going to create a lavender planter, and I picked up this wooden sign at a thrift store for $1, and I gave it a couple coats of my white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. Then I picked up these bags also. They were 5 for $1 at a thrift store, and it was two-sided. There was a pocket on each side. There was also a ribbon there. I cut off the ribbon, and there was this weird like fading from where the ribbon was. So I'm just going to glue that side down onto my board and use the other side's pocket. So I just go ahead and put 2 little pieces of hot glue where the ribbon was, and then I'm going to put a dot here at the bottom and a dot at the top just to make sure that my burlap bag stays. Now if you wanted to recreate this, you could use a sign from Dollar Tree. You could also just use pieces of burlap. You could glue them on, and then you can make a pocket as well. So this could be easily reproduced using just items from like Dollar Tree. Then I'm going to take my flower bundle, and I realize these are lilacs and not lavender, but if you wanted to put lavender here instead, you could totally do that. I actually like how the lilacs end up looking here in the end, but I'm just going to make a bundle, use some fabric, and tie it together into a little bundle of flowers. If you didn't want to use fabric here, you could also use ribbon. Either would work. I'm just going to go ahead and tie it in a knot. You could also tie it in a little bow if you wanted to, and that would be super cute as well. But once I get it tied into a knot, all I'm going to do is place my flowers into the little pocket that's on the front. Now, here in a minute, you're going to see me use a stencil on the front of my burlap. I should have done that first. It was kind of an afterthought because once I got the project all put together, I felt like it was missing something. And once I put the stencil on the front, then it really brought that all together. So hindsight being what it is, I could have done that before I put the bundle in. So then I took some more of my fabric, and I'm just going to make a quick shabby bow using some twine and tying it off in the middle. Once I get that tied off, I'm going to go ahead and glue that to the top of my wooden sign. So I love making these bows out of fabric, but you could definitely use a ribbon or anything else like that can make a shabby bow. I've just been really loving getting the fabrics. There's all kinds of fabrics to choose from. You can also buy like the fat quarters at Walmart or Joann's, and they're inexpensive as well, especially if you're just using them to make little bows. But I find that you can get a lot of really inexpensive fabric at thrift stores and garage sales, so definitely be on the lookout for that. So I added one of my Totally Dazzled gems into the middle of that bow, and then I'm going to take this stencil that I got from Amazon, and I'm just going to stencil that here in the middle. I will link these stencils as well down in my description box, but I'm just using black Waverly chalk paint, and then here it is styled in some decor. So here's a final look of all the projects together today. I had so much fun making these, and I just absolutely love thrifting and taking things that nobody wants anymore and turning them into something really fun and purposeful. So if you are a thrifter, let me know, what kind of thrifting do you like to do? Are you a garage seller, a thrift store? Where I live, we don't have a lot of thrift stores, so I tend to be more of a garage sale person, but let me know where your favorite store is to shop. If you enjoyed these videos, go ahead and check out these videos here. And as always, wherever you are in your journey is a perfect place to start, and I will see you in my next video.
I wanna do it all with you by my side. If you're in, meet me here tonight.